Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Take a look around, kid. What do you see? Homes being foreclosed. People working 2-3 jobs just to put food on the table and still drowning in debt. Don't get me wrong. This country is founded on great ideals and principles. They've all been ruined by the banks. Open your eyes to banks that are robbing you. You know who my favorite president was? Who? Thomas Jefferson. Because he saw all of this coming and tried to stop it. He fought the banks. JFK too, and they killed him for it. The banking institution is more dangerous than an army, he said. He also said that every generation needs a revolution, Jimmy. The American dream is just that, just a dream. War is a continuation of politics, only by other means. Politics is a continuation of economics by other means. This is our bank. This is our war. And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome, folks. Welcome. This is the Story Behind the Story, Dr. A. Truott Show. I am Major Burdock, filling in for True, and I have Phil with me. We're going to be discussing some great stuff here from the Philippines. So it is a beautiful morning over here, 10 o'clock. Hopefully, we're still on the map next week. We've got looks like a pretty gnarly storm, one of the worst that we've seen in recent history. It hit Marianas and is headed our way. But right now we're 5 by 5, I hope, and we're going to dive right into it. I mean, because we're right in the middle of this, and we can look at however you want to pronounce or run his name, spell it. It's being spelled a number of different ways. Cesar Sayak is the bomber. He's the big bomber. At least 13 explosives that we've counted. The numbers going up. We'll see what we've got in store here. This has got weirdness spelled all over it, no matter how you spell his name, no matter how old those stickers on his van are, no matter how many people saw that van and when and who was driving. We're going to get into it because, hey, that's what we've been labeled as conspiracists, so that's our job now. It is possible that he had some nut job, right-wing job that was doing this. It is possible. But, wow, it's more probable than anything that this got too much weirdness going on, too many things that are a little tidy. Let's get into right away the construction of these devices, at least the photographs of the devices. And it wasn't very long after the Soros device was photographed and that was sent out. Now, we don't know who sent that image out, but the first image was kind of it was inverted. It was upside down, and it had this canister of Clorox wipes in the frame, and you had this padded manila envelope that, whether or not that's your good choice to be sending a bomb in. People are debating that. In some cases, it would be if you wanted to force somebody to complete a circuit by disrupting a certain area and not want people to feel wires, perhaps. But it looked like all the wiring was well. Let's just talk about that. The image of this bomb. The first one, the one that was sent to Soros, there's a number of problems. Let's go way back. Let's go way back and discuss how it was found. Who found the first one and under what circumstances? Okay. Now, George Soros, the billionaire who is certainly attempting to overthrow a government, he's got billions of dollars, and so he doesn't pick up his own mail, especially on the street. Right, and so we've got this picture of his mailbox. There's two mailboxes out there that kind of look like rural mailboxes, and I can understand that. I mean, there's folks that like Rupert Murdoch is a billionaire, and he's actually, his house is a little bit weird. He's lived in the same house since the 1960s. Not what you would think a billionaire would live in, but. So there's these two mailboxes, and you have to go to the end of the road to the end of the property to pick up the mail, which is normal enough. And it's normal enough that a household employee would be doing it. So this person, who is now being declared a hero, the story starts with them. They discovered the bomb. That it was and heroically put it in the woods and called 911 and saved people's lives. Now, what's wrong with that? First of all, are you going to be opening the mail? Are you going to be opening the mail? That's a big question. And some people allow their mail to be open. That's fine, especially if you get a lot of it. But it doesn't seem like he's getting a ton of it because he's got just these two mailboxes that are at the end of the road there. That's possible. But if you're the household employee, are you going to be opening the mail out on the street? I mean, you have to open the package to understand that there was a bomb in it, right? So I don't know. That one just kind of smelled wrong to me. And then, of course, this picture came out, and I looked, and that was the only one that was available. Obviously, from the source was released in this condition, which I can tell you no camera manufactured on Earth takes a photo at that resolution or at that aspect ratio. So whoever released that purposefully decreased the resolution of this image. They did. That's a fact. That's not conspiracy. So there's, you know, it used to be back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, if you were on a, you know, or 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you were on a dial-up connection, you might need to do something like that. But we're not running at 9600 baud. Okay, our phones, they take photographs that we can easily, most places on Earth, unless you're maybe if you were using a satellite connect these days, but doesn't sound like that's the case. I mean, you're in an area where you're dismantling bombs. I'm assuming that you're going to have communication to the world. So, and who exactly grabbed this and took care of it in that first, you know, the owner of the Clorox wipes is who we're talking about. Now, this image actually has been spun off to be the same photo, which is so, the resolution is so low on it that you cannot see the addressee. Has been, you know, since then, it was passed off as being someone else's bomb. So if you go, we're going to be obviously taking this head on over at the Goldwater. And I understand Phil might be having trouble getting in or not, but when he does, oh, perfect. I was going to say, hey, yeah, we'll just bring you in right now. My deal with this, Phil, is that when I first saw this image of the pipe bomb, the first one, you know, a bunch of things. Okay, I mean, everybody jumped on it. Number one, just from the packaging, the postage doesn't look adequate to send something that probably.
Nobody is mentioning that 6 stamps times 49 cents will not send 9 ounces, much less a pound and a half. And
correct.
Even if it was enough stamps, how come it ain't postmarked? Because usually when I get mail through the legitimate United States Postal Service, it's postmarked.
Correct. You would see a mark across the stamps that would cancel the stamps, preventing them from being reused. That's the way it works, folks. When you buy stamps and they mail them, they get canceled. That's why when you're a collector, stamps that don't have those marks are a lot more valuable. So we got that, plus the bomb itself, and going through that, I mean, I'll go back and forth on that, but number one, I'll just keep saying this over and over. You don't fuse a pipe bomb through the cap, okay? You just don't do it. The reason that you have these heavy caps on the end is so that that is the compression point on either side, and so the pipe itself explodes. You don't want the caps to blow off, okay? And that's why they're typically lead caps on a lead pipe. And I've seen some reference to the fact that, oh, well, this is PVC. Well, you can make pipe bombs out of PVC. But even in that particular case, even PVC, the size of that device is going to be over 1.5 pounds, especially if you put a timer on it, which the later devices are showing. And I'm thinking to myself, well, no, typically when you're sending a letter bomb or a parcel bomb, as they were first dubbed back then.
Timer on it.
No, you're not going to have a timer on it. I mean, typically, it's meant to explode when somebody picks it up. You would more likely have a radio device on it, a radio detonator, in case you wanted to make sure that it got in the right hands and you were outside surveilling, and then you sent a signal for it to go boom. So, i.e., put it on somebody's doorstep, and then you detonate it. Instead of having, there are a number of different ways to detonate. You can use anything. You can use mercury switches that are very complicated. They're not terribly complicated, but they're very dangerous. That involve movement, a glass tube of mercury, and the circuit is completed if it's shifted and rolls one way or another. Very dangerous stuff. But I'll tell you what, this is going on, and I see Mr. Rowe has put in some other stuff regarding our good friend Cesar, and we'll get into that. But the practicality of it and some of the other things, I'm just getting some other images of possibly these could be hoaxes. I think we need to be very careful about some of the stuff that we're reporting, because obviously we're in a sea of misinformation here. Because this has all the harm. This is meant to be a conspiracy, whether it is or not.
Yeah.
So it already is. I mean, the fact that, let's just go ahead and say it already is a conspiracy. It is, by definition. What's your take on this, Phil?
Have you seen the pictures of his old mugshots versus the CNN picture, where he's 5 shades lighter? Also,
Yeah,
get this.
weird.
And for my next trick, I'm going to turn this Seminole supremacist who identifies as a Green Party into a white nationalist Trump supporter. Just wait. No one will mention Green Party, and they're going to do their best. Well, the Seminole tribe, by the way, has already disavowed this dude. But yeah, no doubt that's going to get lost in the noise. Just like the fact that that Cruz, remember the Cruz kid was like half Jewish and raised by Hispanic adoptive parents, but all of a sudden in the news, he's a white supremacist, right?
Yeah.
They just drop whatever doesn't fit the narrative. But yeah, I have no doubt that we're going to see a lot of pertinent information just dropped. Another thing that really jumped out, Broward County again, hanging jackets, the community arts theater, that Paddock's brother, remember the T-shirt he had, the Community Arts Theater, right near Broward County. You got Parkland. You got, all the way back to the Bush election. There is always something funky going on down in Broward County. So yeah, I mean, everything about this stunk from the get-go. I mean, even before they found the guy, then they find the guy, and I'm like, you remember Edgar Madison Welch, the Pizzagate shooter? Like a couple of months before he decided to bring the gun into the comic ping pong, this guy was arrested for like running over a teen girl, right?
Not in his Prius, though.
Right. But yeah, so we got the, I'm wondering if they didn't have something hanging over this dude's head. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets Jack Ruby'd, Like if he did, I don't know. It's surprising that he's still alive at the moment. I figured they'll probably try and bury him under the prison for the next 50 years, like James Fields at Charlottesville. It all smells really funky to me.
Yeah, and we've got information coming in that. If Mr. Rowe's in a place where he can join in the conversation, I mean, he's dropping a lot of stuff in the chat. You're more than welcome to hop in here, Mr. Rowe, and let's have a roundtable if you're able to.
Sure. How's my audio? 1, 2, 3.
Sounds good.
Okay. Hey, well, hello, gentlemen, everybody. I was looking into this, just sort of a cursory Rowe investigation when I heard about this, because it stinks to high heaven that this is a setup. And he's got, friends that are connected in the CIA. Apparently there's some Twitter out there. His LinkedIn and some of the folks that he's associated with are Democrats. His Twitter page, he follows mostly Dems, which if he's a MAGA kind of guy, most MAGA follow other MAGA. Most Trump supporters follow a lot of other Trump supporters, and apparently he was posting kind of like almost bot-like for several months leading up to this. He just sort of came out of the blue. He's also an ex-felon for grand theft and assault. So I was thinking, well, maybe, this goes back a few years, and I think he's off of the probation from that, but he was on felony probation, so there might be something there. He was also I guess he was a stripper. He was like a stripper, kind of like a Chippendale kind of person, male entertainer down in Florida, and also a bodybuilder. So not that that's anything. These are just little dots, collecting dots. And some people were talking about him being in one of the most densely populated Jewish areas down there in Florida, where there's a lot of synagogues. And this van apparently was seen quite a bit by other folks leading up to this in a parking lot right near a post office. But you made a good point, as a lot of other people pointed out, that there's no cancellation on the postage stamps on any of these. There's a photograph that's in our chat a little further up that shows all of these packages, like 4 or 5 different packages, and they all have the same postage on them, but none of them, 0, have any cancellation, which means either courier or he delivered them himself. And it's interesting, if he delivered them himself, how can
he was going all over the country in this funky van, in the Mystery Mobile.
Exactly. And at the same time, you've got reports are up to over 50,000 people deciding they're going to march on the United States. We can cover that later as well. So you got these two interesting little things going on at the same time. This seems to be fizzling out, though, as far as, the magnitude of this being a psychological operation or a false flag. I mean, luckily nobody was hurt. And he said apparently to the feds, well, I didn't mean to hurt anybody. If he's the patsy, if we go by the narrative that he's the guy that did it and this wasn't done by, some other actors or something. Mm.
Yeah, it's all of this is just starting, and I think you're right. Trump, if you saw that, really kind of turned the tables on him, and I thought it was interesting that he said, they've already got the guy in custody, but he said, we're going to make sure that either he or she, are prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So it didn't appear that he was certainly accepting that this was the end of the investigation, and kind of turned the tables and said, hey, we this island. So that's really what was happening there. So I think we've got an open mic somewhere.
I'm hearing somebody.
Oh, sorry, that's me. Yeah.
But yeah, this is all fun and good. I mean, looking at the device itself makes no sense to me. Now, also, I want to point this out, that the very first, and I need to I'll bring this up as we're speaking. That way I've got the facts. So actually, Phil, why don't I pass it over to you? I'm going to be doing a little bit of research to bring this up. I've had a hard time with my machines, I lost all my tabs. So what do you think? Do you think it's just this one guy? And what do you think about the fact that if that van has been driving around all this time in the Florida sun, would those stickers be
would have peeled somewhat? Remember Charlottesville? And there was this one derpy looking guy, like, he wanted to do a field assignment. Damn it. I want a field assignment this time, guys. And they're like, okay, we'll let you go to Charlottesville. Now bring this Nazi flag. But they forgot to let it wave around in the wind a little bit. So it literally had the squares where it had been unfurled for the first time. Not to mention the fact that KKK and neo-Nazis don't carry the 1940s era National Socialist flag. Nobody does that. That's made up. But for stupid people who want to believe what they want to believe, that's enough. And yeah, I think we're seeing the same kind of thing here. A friend of mine, Rev Bart Stewart, he said something that I took to heart here. Words mean things. A device. Now, this was before we'd found out, quote unquote, who done it. Words mean things. A device that is not intended to explode, confirmed now, is not, by definition, a bomb. However, the intent to cause terror with any political effect, however tangential, is terrorism. And unlike the left, I will call it terrorism no matter who turns out to be the culprit, Trump supporter or leftist hoaxer. There's the difference. If it comes out that this was an elaborate hoax by a leftist, the media will back off the terrorism angle so fast it'll make your blank head spin. But yeah, what I find interesting is how the media plays into the terror themselves. Remember when Ricin was sent to the White House after 2 years of Maxine Waters
not really.
and calling for people's heads?
Yeah, not really. I don't remember that, and there's a reason, probably. I mean, Ricin of all things. Okay.
Right.
I found. I'm sorry. Let me run through this just from the beginning. This is the first parcel bomb. What we know is the first parcel bomb. I'm just going to read this really quickly and then pass it back to you guys. What might be the first recorded case of a device broadly similar to the modern parcel bomb featured in the 18th century affair known as the bandbox plot. And we should take a look into this because, this is part of...
Right before November 5th.
November
the Guy Fawkes
plot. November 4th, 1712, a bandbox, which is a lightweight hat box, was sent to Robert Harley, Earl of Oxford, the British Lord Treasurer. It contained a number of loaded and cocked pistols, whose triggers were attached to a thread, which could have made the pistols fire the moment the box was open. The plot was foiled by the perceptiveness, I guess, of Jonathan Swift, yes, the author of Gulliver's Travels, who happened to be visiting the Earl of Oxford. Swift, perceiving the thread, seized the package, cut the thread, thus disarming the device. The attack was laid at the door of the opposition Whig Party, and through an enormous popular sympathy behind Harley, the precise perpetrators were never identified or apprehended, and the political consequences are right there. He won. So it's interesting to note that the first one of these in history that we have, I'm sure maybe, in, I guess, not modern history, but since the 1700s, since people are using some gunpowder and sending it. Well, I don't even want to say that. I mean, I'm sure that in warfare, somebody has sent a message that went boom. But this appears to be involving kind of what we're dealing with today. So I think it's interesting to note that it was political. The very first one here is political. So anyway, I'll pass it back to you guys and hop in. Sorry for the, I just needed to get that historic element out. 1712, which is when this has been going on, and with a couple of loaded pistols, which it sounds like this is what this guy should have used, aside to trying to be a bomb maker.
I don't think that was the attempt, though. Honestly, no.
You know that van, the stickers on it, right, are like a well, I wouldn't say a professional, but like a printed kind of layover, like a one big sort of sticker with a lot of graphics on it. But there's actually photos of that same van earlier, like a couple years ago, or apparently it's got a new paint job, and the stickers have changed. There are some photos of the back, and you see that if you blow them up, that it is the same van, and some of the stickers are the same like style and the same layout. But if you look very closely, it's not the same stickers, and the van has gotten a paint job. There's no more pinstriping on it, and it apparently was seen parked in this shopping center for quite a while. Also, he used the same type of printing style on a trailer that he towed with the van without stickers on it, advertising his, stripping and that kind of stuff. And then there's another thing I wanted to think is the FBI is saying more pipe bombs, quote unquote, pipe bombs could still be in the mail. So the authorities, quote unquote, are rolling with this narrative that the post office is sending them through because they've got a news blurb here. MAGA bomber sent 12 devices via major USPS mail facility in crime-plagued Opelika in South Florida. This is just fear porn at its best by the media because, anybody that can see that these things aren't being sent through the mail. And I'm getting this sort of a weird kind of thing, like maybe he is a guy that's on standby. Like if the right people call for a job that they need, that he needs to be out there in the press for whatever reason, he needs to play the part, then he's ready to rock. That's just the feeling that I'm getting, that he's basically in on this little game, and this is not something. And then they're saying, actors Arnold Schwarzenegger, Meryl Streep, Alec Baldwin, Cher, Ben Stiller, Amazon owner Jeff Bezos, and John Oliver, they know already. They're all on high alert and watch out for packages in the mail. So they're still pouring out the feel like be afraid, everybody. But this is the leftist media. Anyway, back to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it does seem like he was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? I've been paid money. You want me to drive around and do this, or do you need me to, do this? And I also looking into his history. Yeah, if you're supporting Donald Trump online, you're going to have your contacts are going to be, across the board. They're going to be people that, if you're fanatical,
I'm a MAGA person right now. Make America Great Again. That's right. Mr. Rose supports Donald Trump. I want everybody to know that. And I don't follow hardly any leftists. I follow other MAGA.
Yeah, I do too. And so the point that I'm making is like I've got everybody from Rush to but even people that are a little bit harsh. Of course, you're going to have Milo because you want to see what's going on there. There's like this whole different flavor that you can get over on our side of things that you're going to, even if you don't agree with a lot of these people, you can't just listen to one person and become a fanatic. You can't just, seriously. I go to the Daily Stormer on a regular basis when it's available to see what's happening. It's my job as an editor and as a journalist to see what's going on and to see how these people are being treated. And hey, you know what? Because we need to report on the media side of things. But even then, you're going to be upset that the media, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, one thing that you're going to be upset is the media. And so you're probably going to have a lot of media people in your list in order just to get the information and to have both sides of it. And then, of course, you're going to have left-wing people too. If you're meeting two people legitimately, they just don't want to hear it, and they can't. Like, Barack Obama's speech in Las Vegas the other day, on the same day that Trump was speaking in Elko. It was my job to do that. I had to go through that torture and listen to him take credit for the economy and take credit for all of this stuff. And so there's some people that have that ability or it's their job to do it. but most people, it just makes them sick. So I understand if you only have a few left-wingers on your list, but on the right, you're going to have a big spectrum. You're going to have a big spectrum of people. And, you know, this isn't the behavior of somebody. And it seems like it's like not only that, but if you're going to set off an operation like this and make somebody appear to be an extreme right-winger who is sending bombs, you have to really, like, the only thing that you could be doing, the thing that makes the most sense is to get race involved in it, because the people, the most dangerous people on the far right who would be doing something like this would typically have race, or they would have something that they'd be upset about Jews in a particular case. And so, and their targets would have, the initial targets would have that on them. So, I mean, you're talking about folks that are up in northern Idaho, Hayden Lake. And I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about the Redoubt. I mean, I think the Redoubt is an incredible area, and it should be looked at as the future of the United States of America, in my opinion. But there are some folks up there that get out of hand. They go and rob banks in Spokane, which has happened, and they get out of hand. And they've been known to use bombs, and they've been right wingers. You got your Timothy McVeighs. Okay, you got folks that have that kind of militia mentality, and those, if you were going to do it, you would want to paint that picture of, you would want to have something like that in this guy's background. Now, this guy being in Florida and being a Chippendales, I mean, come on.
There's a joke that says, that these bombs were sent by leftists because they don't work.
They didn't work.
Yeah, that's exactly. I swear I was joking with Steve Deller, our European correspondent, just yesterday, and I mean, I'm not taking credit for it because I'm sure everybody, but I really easily quipped that and it got a good laugh out of him. It's, they had to be, because it doesn't work. And yeah, I mean, folks, well, let's just put it this way. My hearing isn't as good as it should be. So I'll just keep it there. And looking at these devices, you don't make the devices that way. Typically, a mail bomber is going to be, first of all, you're never going to use tape. You're not going to use tape on anything, simply because if you're going to be doing something like this, you have to understand that you're going to get caught. And in the world of forensics, tape is your worst enemy, and they are overjoyed at the FBI, at the ATF, any place that does forensics. Whenever they see tape, it's just made their day, because it's a wealth of information for them, biologically, fibers especially. So you would never ever use tape on a bomb that you were sending it. If you had the wherewithal to use gloves, not to put fingerprints on a package, you certainly would not be using tape. So now, whether or not this guy was actually willing to, wanting to do this, or they wanted him to be even serious, they just were testing the waters. I'd say that this is a failure. I think you're right, and I think the word fizzle is the right word, Dr. Rowe, Mr. Rowe. This isn't getting the attention. I think a lot of people, even on the left, it's like, okay, all right. And maybe something broke down. Maybe they were prepared to go further, and somebody's cover got blown, and maybe they didn't expect Trump to react in the way that he did, in that he went full force the minute that it started, and he mobilized everybody. Can you imagine the ATF, the FBI, everyone focusing, thousands of people, thousands of experts focusing on this one thing. They catch the guy so quickly. I think they just figured, shut it down, because they're going to find out something else. And, we got the message out. But I don't think the job is done.
one of these governors called out the National Guard, and I'm thinking, what the heck's the National Guard going to do? I mean, when you think about it.
They sort the mail? What are they going to do? I mean, come on. Craziness.
If this is the best that the left has to try to disrupt things, then, well...
They're not sending their best.
Maybe they are. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe they are.
Yeah.
That's the sad part.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. And I think just it all really just came down when Trump said, hey, we need to put an end to this political violence. And I'm going to make sure that these people, and he used the plural, are brought to justice and are prosecuted to the full extent of the law. While he's talking to a group of young black leaders, I thought it was great. I really did. It was succinct, and then he thanked the media, and recognized CD. He didn't say it by he said by prominent political officials and a media organization, but of course it had to be CNN. It's nuts how these attempts are. I think that probably the most dangerous one was what they did to Kavanaugh. Because that involved a lot of creepy stuff, and it shows the extent that they're doing. But they're not willing to sacrifice their own. See, I mean, if they're really going to do it, they were going to, you would be successful. And we're getting into a dark territory. I need to make a disclaimer, folks, that we're not suggesting that anyone die or get hurt ever. We're not trying to inform people on how to better do it. So it's because they'll come in and say, well, this is stuff that we get shut down for in an instant on other networks. So, I don't think we would have made it this far on a live stream. By the way, I think we're almost up for getting our YouTube back. I think it's coming on here in a bit. We're gonna have a celebration show, folks. We've got our own show over here in Manila, and we put that out on Twitch, but that's on Tuesdays. So Monday nights for you all. And it's actually the same time, so it's 7:00 p.m. Monday is our show, and we get shut down all the time. So this time we're going to do a show, and we're going to invite a bunch of other people that got shut down and want to go back on, just to see how long it takes us to get shut down again. So we're going to have some gun folks on there, and people who appreciate the Second Amendment. I've talked to a couple of people. We might even have a prize. Somebody is offering a prize, which I think is interesting. That ought to really trigger some folks, no pun intended. But I understand somebody's offered an AR-15 as a prize. So, and of course, to all the folks at the ATF, yes, the transfer of said firearm will be in the United States and will go and be properly documented as a sale, as a legal sale for whatever price is necessary, but it's for the sake of a prize, just to trigger people. So, I think it's interesting. You can't. And here's the one thing that I think is the core difference between one group and the other. And I've been thinking about this, especially with the NPC stuff. That's for those of you who aren't hip on it right now, you've seen it most likely, and we're proud to be the birthplace, okay, of the NPC meme, which is apparently the guy was over on 4chan, but he's one of our guys now. It's this non-playable character, and it's this. It actually is derived from Mac Paint with the two beady eyes. It's just two dots, a two-dimensional nose, just two lines, and then this mouth and kind of this egg head, and it's a gray face. And the only way that you can get expression is through the eyebrows, and there's just a single line. They're either flat, they don't exist, or they're up or down. And so down is angry NPC, and then up is compassionate or wondering what they're supposed to be doing NPC. And so it's really freaking out the left. Twitter banned it. They banned it. Okay, this is a line drawing, folks. A line drawing. This is how far they're going. They banned this meme. They banned a line drawing is what they did because it dehumanizes people. And I submit to you folks that if anybody is participating in dehumanization, it is Twitter and Facebook. It is Google. Because if you're acting like a human, which means you have individual thought, you have your own voice, then you're not part of them. So to me, that's exactly, and that's dehumanization.
I didn't go, Jack, Mr. Dorsey calling me a Russian bot, and then make a new rule about dehumanization. No,
it's meme magic. I love meme magic. It's just like the serendipity. Like you take the word mob, which is also a video game term.
Caesar shift +1.
Yeah, and boom, NPC. I mean, the synchronicity. It's so right, quote unquote.
Yeah, everything's time. This has been around since the NPC has been around since 2016. It started on 4chan, and so now it's like when I first saw it, and I'm not a gamer, I'm like, that is it. And the very fact and like right when it was within 36 hours, Twitter had banned it. And I'm like, this is it. You obviously know you hit. This is perfect. It is timing. It is pure serendipity to have this come in. And yeah. So I've asked people who, I've got a bunch of people that I talk to that are, they read the Goldwater, and I ask them, I talk to them and I say, hey, have you seen these memes, these NPC? Do you know what NPC is? And they're like, no, what is that? And so I explain it, and there's no, I haven't. I'm like, you're going to see a lot more of this. And I mean, because it's been banned, you're going to see it because people want to see how bad something has to be banned. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I go rent a movie and it says, well, the director's cut or, contains footage that was banned in 46 countries. Yeah, I mean, the reason it's printed on there is because you want to see it. This is proving a point. This is really, really proving a point. And it goes right to the core of what's happening. So the wit behind it is so simple. And the fact is that this is kind of a self-driving thing. The reason it's going to become popular is because they're going to fight it. And they didn't know how to fight Pepe. Okay, they just equated Pepe with being a Nazi, and so that's what's happening there. But you're going to see NPC go way out of line. It's going to be. We had already, an NPC with a Trump hat, a Trump hairdo on at the Oval Office. And people didn't know what to make of that. Wait a minute, Trump isn't NPC. How does this work? And that's like the whole point of it working. Okay, you don't want your president to look like that, do you? So yeah, I mean, this is I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this. It's and don't forget, Pepe is not going away. Okay, Pepe will never go away. He's part of history.
Yeah, exactly.
And he'll be popping up. So we've got the NPCs.
Brexit and Trump, that wouldn't have happened without Kekistan, Meme Magic, and Pepe. I don't care, you call it NLP or Meme Magic or, Zigilization if you studied chaos magic or whatever. But yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that image boards and what they call Meme Magic were in a large part responsible for both Brexit, the right-wing shift in Europe, and Trump's win.
Absolutely. I think that it was key. A lot of people say memes won him the election. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Because it brought humor to the situation, and it adequately illustrated what was happening. I think what NPC is bringing to the situation is it's a little darker. but it's appropriate considering what they did with Kavanaugh and what they're doing with these bombs. Yeah, and I'm going to squarely say, I don't, anyone who would, like, for example, Maxine Waters got 2 bombs. If you think about it, who in their right mind, in the right wing, would want Maxine Waters out of the picture? She is the best thing to happen to the GOP. I mean, it is. Nobody wants Pelosi gone. Nobody wants. If you talk to anyone in the House or Senate, they love the fact that you've got the Elizabeth Warrens and the Maxine Waters and the Ocasio-Cortezes, and especially the Maxine Waters.
In Maxine Waters' district, what they think of her. You
know what?
Like, somebody may look up to Maxine Waters, but it's not poor black kids in the ghetto in Maxine Waters' district.
No, and in fact, actually, back in 1994, I'm in some weird territory here because, let's just say that I gained intimate knowledge of how her family works and with one of her family members. And I saw where they lived, and they're driving around in Rolls Royces. That's not a joke. Literally, they're driving around in Rolls Royces. In one of the poorest districts, there's this massive apartment building on 9th Street off of Sepulveda in LA. And there is it's the penthouse, and that's and it's under corporations, and the person that brought me, well, it was one of her daughters, brought me there, and it's just madness. This is, and she was saying, you're not, I remember her telling me this. She said, you're upper middle class. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not offensive to me. I mean, I'm not trying to, my family has money, and I was going to one of the most expensive schools that you could at the time, but I was not one of these. I never got an allowance. I worked for a living. I worked for every dime, but one of the perks of coming from a wealthy family is that I didn't have to worry about scholarships, and that was one thing that my education was paid for, and I'm very grateful for it. And so it really didn't mean much to me. It wasn't like one of these Instagram type of situations where kids are trying to outdo one another. But with her, it certainly was. She wanted to make a point that her mommy had way more money than my family ever would see. And to me, that, certainly isn't, that's not any sort of conversation I even want to get into. Normally, that's something you just don't talk about. But that is I can give you an inside angle on Maxine Waters' mentality is money and power is king, and that's it. And it's mob style, and you go out and do whatever you say, and don't do what you're going to say you do, but just say whatever they want. And you'll see, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars that we know about. Seriously, to say one of the most corrupt officials, come on, that's such a high standard that, she's so incompetent, she doesn't really, if she could have, she would have taken more. If she was more competent, she would have stolen more money. People just haven't taught her how. And that's why it's great to have her. She needs to stay there because it represents how modern day Democrats view blacks and as constituents. It's pathetic. It's sad. And to see what Donald Trump did yesterday, talking to these folks, the black leaders who were just cheering him on and they were really kind of riled up, they're in the White House. And, I think it's great. And it's certainly, it's a photo op for him, but at the same time, I really think he means what he's saying. I don't think he's racist. I think that he really does think that, you know, there's a lot of things that need to happen with blacks and the mentality. And I think that there's a reason that he, you know, Ben Carson had no experience whatsoever with HUD, but it was important that Ben Carson, you know, the main problem is housing and families. And that's where it starts, is to have a decent home. It starts at the home, the problem with the breeding gangbangers, okay, starts with having a good home if you don't want gangbangers. So to grab Ben Carson, who was an opponent of his in the election, and say, hey, you know, can you take care of HUD? And he does. I think that it's refreshing. It is. And he doesn't have to dance around all the political correctness anymore, which is great, you know. So interesting. So we got that for the midterms. God knows, guys, what any projections, because 2020 is coming up here really quick. We've got they were willing to do that with Kavanaugh. Midterms, you've got bombs getting sent out. What are they going to be doing in 2020?
They're sending up a whole bunch of people right now. Apparently, do you think George Soros is a hand in paying off some of these people to organize?
Definitely.
Or is
I wrote an article about that last week, where the new, it was Washington Post is claiming, this guy is saying that George Soros is paying off protesters. Now, in actuality, what was going on is they hand him $50 and say, this is for you to bail out. And then you have to give it back if you don't get arrested. You know how like in Vietnam, they would give you a syringe full of morphine and you had to give it back if you didn't use it? So everybody, mission over, we're about to get on the chopper. There we go. It's the same kind of thing right there. Of course, he's not literally handing them over money and paying them off. No, there's this whole, that's for, but yes, he absolutely is funding these groups. And a lot of these groups, that's something I noticed doing an article about YouTube a few days ago. A lot of these groups, it's like there's the Open Societies Foundation funds this data accountability group, which funds this, and they're all the same. There's like 500 fronts, but they're all funded by the same, it's this trickle down thing going on. Yeah. I also think that George Soros isn't the big guy. I think George Soros is our Harvey Weinstein, the loud, obnoxious, flamboyant guy that gets caught. Do you think Harvey Weinstein was the sickest perv in Hollywood? Heck no. He was just the one that was the worst about, keeping his snail trail clean. I guarantee you, Soros is not the big boss.
Well, Soros certainly has put in a massive. the dollars speak for themselves.
Billion.
Who's
no doubt.
So you have to take a look at that. But what I noticed is I've set up offshore corporations and things for legitimate companies, but overseas. And I've also studied how illegitimate companies are able to operate, and unfortunately, it's one of those things where you're testing the limits of the law, and these guys have massive amounts of money, and so they're able to spend a huge amount of money on the best attorneys. And of course, you want to study the work of those attorneys if you're getting into that field. Now, your clients, are not going to be doing illegal things. Everything's going to be above board, but the structure of these nonprofits is akin to a criminal organization. It is, because if you want to make sure that nobody is figuring out what the source of the money is, we all kind of know what it is, but it allows anonymous people to come in and filter off and put back in this entire chain of things. So it's organic. We'll be right back. Folks. Lots more at the second hour.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Join me weekdays for my new show, Tell Chris Joe. It's going to be a problem show brought to you live from Kensington. Thursdays, I'm dealing with hot topics, heated debate, what's new around the world, and ring-ins to discuss listeners' problems and offering considered and heartfelt solutions. So join me, Chris Hart, for Tell Chris Joe. Stop what you're doing, grab a cup of tea. I'm coming live from Kensington. Relax, let me entertain you with a coffee bar online. Listeners' very personal problems. So that's Thursdays, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. See you there. It's going to be lots of fun.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically atomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
Is your data safe? Do you have the necessary information to assist you in confidently living through just about any survival situation? Is survival and gardening, off-grid living, medical knowledge, or even natural or man-made EMPs on your list of personal concerns? Do you have your documents and your personal information in a safe place in your hands where you know where it is? Well, check out our preloaded EMP-proof thumb drive. Over 3 gigs of survival documents and how-tos, plus the USDA offline food preservation website, and much, much more, including a surprise bonus we just can't tell you about here. With plenty of room left over to store your most important documents. Imagine if a megavirus or a computer failure took out your bank, or all the banks for that matter. Are your banking records safe in your hands? So when they get things fixed and repaired, you can say, hey, look, this is what I had. You have it. I want it back. Is your personal data safe? Family records, addresses, phone numbers? Well, squeeze on over to freedomslips.com. Yes, that's www.freedomslips.com. Click the banner on the homepage for the EMP-proof bullet drive to get the full scoop of everything that we offer. So, folks, keep your data safe for your peace of mind. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Looking for a nightcap to fill your listening needs? Come join us on Spaced Out Radio with me, Dave Scott, right here on Revolution Radio. Monday through Friday for 3 hours a night, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we will take you down the supernatural path. From ET contact to the paranormal and all of the spiritual, cryptid, and conspiracy stories in between. You can find us right here on Revolution Radio at spacedoutradio.com, on Twitter at spacedoutradio, and on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show. Spaced Out Radio. It's a night of talk and interaction. Are you experienced?
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
How are we doing, folks? We are back. Second hour of the story behind the story with Dr. A. True Watt. This is Major Burdock filling in for True, and Phil is with me, and we have Dr. Rowe has been helping out with analyzing some of this new stuff coming regarding the bombers and some of the well, it is a conspiracy, folks. So it's you come to the right place to dissect it. If you're thinking about maybe what you're seeing isn't what's being reported and what is true, and if you might have some other opinions. Wow, we got right into this, and I forgot that we were going to open the lines up to two of our reporters. We were talking about that last week, and wow, what it was just, this week just went by so quickly. But we'll see if we can't, I'll see if I can't get on the studio chat and see if everybody's awake over there. And if so, we'll see if we can find a way to get them on if they're listening. But we're going to go full steam ahead here, continuing on. I think it looks like we're just going to spend 2 hours on this because it is that important. And there's information coming in with this as we speak. So let's see. What is the last? What's our last article here on the Gold Watt? Oh, by the way, folks, the reason we're able to do this. None of us are getting paid for this. So it's because people, viewers, listeners like you are supporting Revolution Radio. And one of the best ways to do it is to subscribe to the archives. If you can, just go to revolution.radio. You can gain access to the archives with the donation, and you can just the wealth of information and entertainment it just abounds there. It's incredible. There's so much that really, I don't know if you really could be in a bunker and have a great amount of entertainment and also useful information. So the point is that we need to keep this going. It costs money for folks to pay for the bandwidth. You can imagine the amount of bandwidth that is being used, people to upkeep the servers. The minimal expenses are not minimal. So please take a moment right now, go to revolution.radio and subscribe to the archives. And there's some other stuff there that you can just donate. But yeah, it's important to keep this going. We're not going to be pitching anything. You'll hear us plug our own network every once in a while, but if you go to our place, we're not pitching anything. So it really is important to kind of keep this funded by you all who enjoy it. Just donate whatever you can afford. And also we'll give an update on Alex Studer's situation here in a bit. And I may, depending, I need to get with True on this, but yeah, busy week. But we'll get back into where we stopped off, which is guys, I really think that this is, it's one of those deals where it's just designed for the simple-headed people, and mission accomplished. A bunch of right-wingers, crazy Trump-supporting people sent bombs. They're losing. It's right before the election. They're trying to kill us. And the best thing that you can possibly do when you don't know what else to do is to paint yourself as the victim. That's what's happening right here. And I know that there's a lot of, and I probably get heat for saying this, but I've actually heard of people saying, "Why didn't I get a bomb?" It really is that bad. It is.
So Maxine got two. She's doubly.
She got 2 scoops of ice cream. We're referring, of course, to Trump getting 2 scoops of ice cream at one of his dinners.
Jerk.
Yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff, but I think that, obviously we need to segue into and go back and forth between this and the caravan, which is an obvious thing, and it's being clearly funded by Soros. That's documented, and there's some really other creepy money that's going in there, philanthropy, the Ford Foundation, some of these other folks that are just super wannabe social justice warriors, old institutions, and people that you just have been taken over by. The families probably just don't care. Well, that's philanthropy. I've got my money. I'm just going to go try not to overdose on cocaine and heroin type of foundations where people really don't care what's going on, and it's been taken over by these people. But yeah, no question, money directly from Soros, not directly, but purposefully indirectly goes and yes, we do have video of these people being handed cash as they're standing in line. And the women get their cash first, and they separate. I think this is the other interesting part of that video, is that they separate the men and the women. Now, if these are families, any man, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm going on a migrant journey from Honduras on foot all the way up to Mexico and through Mexico to the U.S. border, and my family's, I'm not going to leave my family. How is it that they've got all these people separated and the guys aren't saying, hey, wait a minute, what are you going to be doing? Because they don't have the wherewithal or the mindset to know that most of the women that cross the border are raped. Most of them. So if I'm going as a family, and that's what they're purporting this to be, where are the men in these videos? Where are they? I don't know, Phil, if you had a family and you're going to be going on a perilous journey, and there's a good chance that your wife is going to get raped, are you just going to, let's talk about that.
Raped, but raped on the way over to be trafficked, Yeah. Like the guys that turn you over to be a sex slave, make sure to, pop the cork, so to speak.
Oh, this is such, man, we were using the word serendipity, but I don't want to mess things up. I have somebody calling me right now who I know he's calling me because of this, but I haven't informed him that I'm on the air. So for me to patch him in would be, the first thing he would do would dox me. So we're gonna have to wait. Yeah. This is Scott Ruby is calling me right now, and unfortunately, I just had to let that call go. Yeah, that would have been a good one. He's just a little bit late, but what a great guy. I mean, Scott Ruby is he's just a good guy. He's up in Montana, and he's worked on a number of different campaigns. He's our political guy. He's our midterm guy. He's my source. And no, Scott Ruby isn't his real name. So, but he's my source for a lot of this stuff, and I know he's all jacked up right now to go, but he's just too late to get on the air. But yeah, so it should, I mean, somebody should. The problem is nobody's going to report it aside from us. And when we report things, we get banned, we get blocked, we get, I mean, do you see what's going on with Steve? Anytime he mentions immigration in Europe.
The constant Twitter shadow banning, yep.
Yeah, and he gets banned, and it's these 24-hour deals where, and I think this week is almost a record for him, but it's just ridiculous. He can't mention immigration. He just can't mention it. And of course, you've got this new problem. I mean, another one, this one in Italy, this beautiful young teenage girl who is dragged into this abandoned building and raped and beaten to death
by the Senegalese immigrants. Yeah, illegal immigrants. I saw somebody in the comments section, why are you calling them refugees? And he's like, okay, you'd prefer me to call them Senegalese migrants. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, actually, and it's pretty rare for Steve to make a comment like that, but he's right in doing so.
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
No, it's actually even worse. I'm going to tell you exactly where they're from. Do you want me to put that in the headline? I mean, come on. All of it is just, it's obvious, okay? I don't know why people, I mean, I feel like just I'm in a different world. It's like, wait a minute. You're importing criminals. You're importing people to rape. Are you out of your mind? What are you doing? You're enabling. You're giving birth to an industry of slave trade. Okay, not slave trade. They're not going to work. It's quite the opposite. But it's an industry for them to. Okay, I'm going to take all your worldly possessions, put you on a boat. You may live, you may not, but goodbye. And we're going to rape you before you leave. How about that? And that's a whole industry in Northern Africa. And Europe cares so much about these people that they're enabling the entire operation. If they had any gall, if they had any sense of humanity, they would go down and shut down these people, take their boats out into the Med, and sink them in live fire drills, letting people know, no, you're not going to be immigrating this way, and we've got boats to prove it. And this is what happens to this one and this one. And you do it right off the coast in the view of everybody. Live fire drills just destroy and sink all of these boats without people on them at first. Okay, I'm not saying that you should you should sink boats with people on it, unless it's just the people that are working for, that are running the operation, maybe taking the boat back. If they're taking the boat back, anything going south, I say engage. Anything going north, stop them, turn them around, take them by force, tow them if you need to, and get them back. Get IKEA back on the ball game because they had the whole deal going for housing. There's no better company on earth, no better funded, no better, their R&D is already done. The housing situation in Northern Africa can be solved, not overnight, but I mean, it's shipping containers, houses and houses and houses that can be constructed, that have solar power, that have electricity, have ventilation, all easily constructed by people who can't even read. It's just like putting together IKEA furniture. Maybe you'll need somebody. It depends. If you can put together IKEA furniture, you can put together a house for your family, okay? So I would expect people to maybe take an interest in that and understand that, hey, there's some water, there's some food. Now we can talk about where you want to go in life. Do you own land back where you live? We can probably hook you up with somebody who, when that thing calms down, whatever it is. And I think that if we build a wall or an area around that to make sure that it's safe, and go and talk to the Russians. Now, this would be an embarrassment if they didn't agree with us. Talk to the Russians and say, listen, these are real refugees, as we can tell. We're vetting them. We want to make sure there's no terrorism here. But as we know, this is kind of our little green zone. Do you want to help us guard this area? And that way, it's not viewed as being one way or another. You get Doctors Without Borders, the Red Cross. If you care so much about these refugees, if you're Swedish and you love these refugees, it's not too far away. You can just go right down there. If you're an American and you want them, go there, go there. I mean, I'm sure they can use your help. You can give blood. You can do whatever you want. You can let them rape you if you need, if that's what it takes, okay? But do not let them get on a boat. I know. I mean, I sound really angry, but I am. It is terrible that the mentality of this. They are raping and killing up there, okay? And this is wrong. Who in their right mind cannot see that this is wrong? Who in their right mind would, Steve Deller writing about this, is banned using the word immigration? Do we not see that there's a problem here? Do we not see that the motive here is not to help these people, is to destroy European civilization? And that's exactly what it's doing. And they're right on the tipping point now. I don't know if there's any way back, because 2-3 generations from now, forget it. Forget it. So there's my diatribe on it. And I think that people like Twitter and Facebook and Google need to really understand what they're doing, especially in the position that they are, having such control over the communications industry. Not only that, but the network itself are really stepping. I think that this is their last push, and this is how they wanted it. And they definitely would have succeeded by now. Can you imagine the bans that would have been in place protecting them should Hillary Clinton have been elected president? What a nightmare that would have been. So it's to me incredibly important that people recognize this, get it on the record, because what's the alternative? We have to have another network, another way to get information from one person to another, in order not to turn the entire world into NPCs. This is 1984, folks. This is exactly what was prophesized by Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. All of these writers saw this, and it is indeed happening today, and it's not a coincidence that it happens with technology. There's a reason that every single one of these books has technology as the driving force or as the catalyst in their novels. So, wow, and what they can get away with when they have full control, anything they want. We won't have a choice anymore, folks, and we won't have any guns to fight back with. There's my little diatribe. Phil, what do you think?
No, yeah, I totally agree. And I've had sort of a morbid fascination with the transhumanist movement since like the late 90s. And, back before there was a Google, I was in the World Transhumanist Association Yahoo group, back when Yahoo was the top search engine in the world, and they had the Yahoo groups. And so, I would get regular emails, and you could take part in the discussion between guys like Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nick Bostrom, and the smart cities and facial recognition. The real world is turning into an episode of Black Mirror, which, if you're not familiar, it's a eerily prescient sort of Twilight Zone-esque series that, a lot of the stuff that was in that show, for instance, then a few months later or a year or so later, whatever was featured in the show, like, happened in real life. Like the guy either gets advanced mailings or just has his finger on the pulse. But yeah, there's no doubt there's an undeniable technological dystopia element to this whole thing. Talk about dehumanization. That's where the seriously dangerous dehumanization is coming in, honestly.
Yeah, the dehumanization argument is just so ironic. And how? I mean, that's the argument. That really is the argument. Everybody's supposed to be special, but they're supposed to think and say what you do. You know, that's the main difference between these two factions of people. I really, politically, certainly, everybody has their own ideas, but the main core human difference is that you've got one group of people that believe that they have the right to tell everyone else what to say, what to eat, how to think, what to be educated by, what's offensive, what's not. And if you don't fall in line, you're totally excommunicated from their group, and you're not with them anymore.
That's how cults work.
It is just, that's the core difference. That is the core difference. And this meme, the NPC meme, is exactly that. It is, and that's why they're so incredibly, it's spot on, and it's the perfect timing. And I mean, it's no coincidence that the MOB NPC situation is happening. It is right there. So don't think for a second that people will not eventually recognize that on the left. I think that their hatred of Donald Trump will be over disgusted by, wow, we're talking about humanity as we know it. And given any period of time, this is going to come through. And I think that the reason this bomb thing didn't go further is because somebody saw that, oh, maybe that's not having the desired effect that we want. Let's pull the plug on it, because it could have gotten worse. It could have gotten paddock worse, I think. I think that if you're planning something like this, you're going to have stages. And this was maybe a tester stage to see, well, how are they going to react to this?
Right.
And this is like the pre-release, the screening of the film.
See if they eat out of the narratives. The narrative has got its hand outstretched here. See if they'll eat right out of my hand.
Yeah. Do you like that? This is a test screening. If not, we can go back and dub some new audio, and we're ready to release the movie.
6 stamps, but nobody who needs to believe, who wants to believe that Trump is a Nazi and every Trump supporter is a racist terrorist. People, there's half of the country, not half, I'd say at least a third of the country, 20 to 33% of the country does believe that, and certain powers that be think that that's not enough, and that's why we have this situation prop up. That's why they kept pushing Nicholas Cruz, the Hispanic Jewish kid, as a white supremacist, or the Bernie supporter in Portland was a Trump supporter. They always leave out these certain real. Stephen Miller said cosmopolitan, and that's an anti-Semitic dog whistle. Let's ignore that he is Jewish. There are people who want to believe these things, and they're eating right out of the narrative's hand. And the 6 stamps, I believe that was a test. This is only a test.
Yeah. I mean, what can we get away with? That's always a good thing. And you do it in a poker game too, when you're getting to know, like if you are testing out a crew of people that you're getting, you get together and you're playing some poker, and there's a new guy at the table, and you don't know, you're not sure what's happening. You're going to throw a couple of tests at him, and I mean, it might cost you some money to do it. You want to see what happens when you're doing a bluff and you're throwing a tell at him, and see if he picks up on the tell, see if he's picking up on other people's tell. But it takes you a couple of hands to figure out how he's playing, and that way you can control the game. if somebody foreign comes in, because you always want to be careful of anyone new that's joining the table, because that guy could very well be the smartest guy at the table. And it doesn't take very long for you to be the dumbest guy, because maybe he's got everybody else in cahoots with him. And that's the way poker works. So it is one of these psychological games that happens where you have to test, you have to throw these things out to see, hey, is that going to work? Is that going to work? And, you know, in this particular case, it really is. It's just one of these, and dare we say, false flag. But what happens if they're testing something even more serious? Like, how can we actually get bombs to other people under these circumstances? What is the government response? You know, how good is the U.S. postal system? But in this particular case, it doesn't appear that they've been involved in it. I mean, how can it go through if obviously there's a major problem there.
Yeah,
but,
6 times 49 is just under $3, and it's $4 and some change to send 9 ounces, and the device itself weighed 1 pound 5 ounces. Sorry, I just did the math, and that doesn't add up at all. Or we've got the other alternative. This guy drove all over the country in his suspicion mobile and just drove up to Soros's house. And he's in the suspicion mobile. And he's like, ding dong, rings the doorbell at Soros's house. And all Soros's guards are like, well, he's got I hate Soros stickers. Let's let him in to drop it on the mailbox or drop it on the doorstep. No. Neither of those fit. I want someone to make this make sense for me. I want to not feel crazy. I want to be like people who read the Washington Post, you know, and be so certain.
Maybe that's the whole entire thing. You're just going to get so frustrated. It's going to be easier to just go two-dimensional and NPC on me, my friend. Don't go,
Whatever
please.
They say, man. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Craziness. Mr. Rowe, any other thoughts on this? I mean, this is just insane, a lot of this.
Well, I think it's obviously manufactured event, you know, and I don't think it's. I have a good feeling in the fact that this is probably some of the best that they can come up with. I think their little network being dismantled, people, you know, losing security clearances here and there, and every time they try to do something, it seems to backfire. I think this is the death throes of a very desperate faction of folks. And I think this is just going to fizzle out. You know, this guy's putting stickers on the bombs, you know, so he's obviously either a patsy or he's very stupid. I think he's was probably a leftist, and probably somebody put him up to this. They're going to give him
he had something hanging over his head.
Yeah, well, he's an ex-felon, and maybe it's meant to scare folks. And the way these people think, maybe they did think, oh yeah, this is a good idea. You know, I mean, backfire, and so no, I'm more concerned about the caravan of people that are coming up from Honduras and Guatemala. I don't know what's going to happen when they get to the border. I don't think they're just going to turn around. So we have, you know, less than lethal weapons. We have microwave things that can kind of deter you. We could fly helicopters and drop leaflets. You know, we could, if worst came to worst, you could have a .50 caliber go after a flag waver, because if you cross as a mob like that, that's an invading army. And it's a disproportionate amount of male folks who, you know, well, they're fleeing to get a better life. Like, okay, so they're going to leave their families behind, and, you know, they don't want any help from outsiders, but they won't take care of their own country and this and that. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I don't believe the moral virtual signaling kind of motive that, oh, but we got to help them. No, this is something that's being coordinated and organized. They're being trucked up on flatbed trailers, and So this is probably a little bit more of a political issue, because what is Donald Trump going to do when they get here? You know, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I think certainly your microwaves, those are fun. Of course, people are going to freak out when you use them. I've seen a couple of short reports that there was a journalist that went and reported on this, and he was with a group of military guys that they'd already tested on this. This is for crowd control, and it's mounted on a Humvee. And if you stay in it too long, I mean, first of all, you just don't. You just want to get away from it, no matter who you are. You can't be like Tough Gall, Steven Seagal. And Steven Seagal is going to run like a woman. Well, he runs like a woman anyway. He's going to run out of the way of this microwave. So there is no tough guy factor in this. And that's a good weapon to be using. Crowd dispersal, and yeah, leaflets definitely, but I think also just Mexico. I mean, we just signed some decent stuff with Mexico and saying, hey, listen, you're enabling a foreign invasion of our land. All bets are off until you take care of this, and hopefully they do the right thing. I mean, hopefully they don't get trigger happy over there. You don't want any of these people to die. But hey, I'm sorry if you're crossing, man. I think 50 cal. Yeah, I mean, for the first couple people, and say, wow, this isn't going to stand. I mean, literally, people are invading, and no, dog won't hunt. There are probably some other things that you can do. Sonic weapons. There are a lot of other things that it's kind of a playground for a bunch of different things that can be done. You could pay them to go away. You could, and deduct what you pay these people to go back out of. Just basically have them pick up their cash and deduct it, make sure that Mexico, there's certain ways that you can actually have that. There's balances of cash that you have access to, the United States has access to, that we can deduct. So we can just pay them to go away. That's also an option. They can just come and get their money, and Mexico, in effect, will be paying them to go back, and they'll have to figure out how. And you know what? I mean, if it gets really bad, start paying them $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a pop. And I guarantee you that'll get shut down really quick, especially if it's, this is stuff that real money that should be going other places. And create a mob on that side, make sure that the border there, the only place that people are going to go is where they can get money. The only other place is to try to cross and get shot. That could be one thing. Certainly, they've been playing games with us by rushing the border on some sides, and the cartels have been funding this, where they're putting the people from Guatemala, Honduras, over on one side through these other areas, kind of choke point areas, and because so many people have to get arrested, all of the Border Patrol agents have to get summoned. They get mustered over there because they have to bring all of these people to detention centers. And during that period of time, the border's essentially open and the cartel brings in their drugs. And that's what's been going on. So there's no reason that we shouldn't be saying, okay, well, you guys are here for money. Here's your money. And on the other side of things, we can play a number of games on this one. But I agree with you, Mr. Rowe. This is a terrible, terrible thing, especially considering that you've got George Soros funding it. And I want to point out, too, there's an article that we wrote, and I don't know if we've done a follow-up on this, but during one of these caravans, somebody on the ground was taking photographs, and some of the vans would either transporting some of these people or some of the people that are minders, and you've got the Star of David on these things.
The red shield, yeah.
You want to fill us in on that, Phil? Just see
yeah. I mean, like, all I've seen is the pictures, and yes, they're not photoshopped. It's definitely a Star of David on one of the trucks that was doing the transport. Now, what gets me about that is it wouldn't be directly Soros related, because Soros is okay. They call it anti-Semitic to talk bad about Soros, but that would make Benjamin Netanyahu an anti-Semite, right? Because Netanyahu, like many world leaders, doesn't like what George Soros is doing in his country. So honestly, the Star of David on the transport truck confuses me a little bit. But yeah, no, it is glaringly obvious. It's right there, and it's not mentioned anywhere else. By the way, our very own Red Pill, aka Courtney Tubbs, wrote a couple of stories along these lines. Evidently, somebody on Twitter. Now, I'll admit, I'd seen this stuff on 8chan before Red Pill wrote about it. But no, we're the Goldwater and this Courtney T character are the originators of the Soros funded the caravan. So, I mean, like, I take that little bit of infamy. I appreciate that.
Compliment. It is a good compliment to have
wrong
people
as usual, but I appreciate, yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying that we manufactured this, but in fact, actually, it's nothing. We don't sit around. I mean, we talk hypotheticals, but we're certainly not manufacturing anything. I mean,
there's no need to fake the news when what's not being told is that sensational.
Oh my God, yeah. It is. It's funny, and so the thought that we're getting paid to generate this stuff is, not to. I mean, I think we'd be great at it because we've seen so much of it. I mean, we would be great if somebody came up and said, "Hey, we want you to perpetuate something, and it's really complicated." I mean, really, we'd be a great outfit. The only thing is,
agitprop would be fun. Yeah, I'll admit.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, we're morally flexible in so many different ways, but not when it comes to this.
Right. If somebody was going to pay me to create agitprop, like, I would have to, as a hobby, create agitprop for the other side just to balance the world out.
Absolutely. Yes. We completely agree on that, and we wouldn't have the jobs that we have right now if we were just if we were to do something like that. So, but it is flattering. It is flattering to get sourced that far back, and that person obviously went through a lot of trouble and time to source where we get our information.
That's because because we're a Russian installed. Oh crap! We're on the radio right now. Crap! I'm so sorry. Hey folks, just ignore everything I just said. That was not meant for your ears.
Right. No, the fact is that we are the news division of 8chan, our sister company, and 8chan. For the listeners who aren't aware of what 8chan is, it's an image board, and it's the internet of the way it used to be. And you can come on and decide. You can say whatever the hell you want, okay? And there's just a couple of. If you don't have common sense, if you're easily offended, if you're an NPC, I mean, just don't go there. It's like if you don't want to see naked women, don't go into a strip club. If you don't eat meat, don't go into churrascaria, or don't go into a slaughterhouse, okay? Because it's like a vegetarian going into a slaughterhouse. And in this particular case, a slaughterhouse is free speech, and we are cutting it up and going through all the facts and everything, and it gets bloody and dirty, and it's not easy to handle for a lot of people. So don't go there. For other people, if you have something that you don't think that is ready for mainstream media, or you feel like your friends are like thinking, wow, gee, you're weird by thinking that, definitely go to 8chan. I don't mean that, you know, I mean, you can talk about how a butterfly fetish is. You could talk about whatever you want, okay? And the rules are simple, okay? And actually, we don't make them up. They're the rules that apply to us.
The U.S. code, right?
It's not just, yeah, it's basically, you know, the obvious things like, hey, gee, you know, no child pornography, all right? Because the subpoenas, summons, warrants, believe me, a lot of us have worked on other sides of the fence and we don't appreciate it. And the next time I get a subpoena, summons, or warrant, this is the last network that you want to be around with that kind of thing. And I have no tolerance for it. And I know I've had a couple of shows with True on that. So that's the way that works. And it's sad that even needs to happen. And then, of course, your DMCA requests, which are legit. Those are copyright images. Somebody's, concerned about something that's copyrighted. If somebody's trading music or videos or something on your network, you don't do that. Okay. And then you've got threatening to kill people. Okay. You don't do that in a real way. Okay. And doxing is part of that threat. Okay. Revealing somebody's personal information or that of their family is not cool. You don't do that, all right? Because the whole purpose of the network is to be anonymous, and therefore you can say what you need to, what you want to, and it's a free exchange of ideas. And this way, it is a bastion. It is the last bastion of free speech, and this is where a hardcore political strategists and researchers and, believe it or not, a ton of journalists are on 8chan. And this is, anyone can go from anywhere around the world on any Tor network, on a VPN. In fact, we recommend that you hide your identity on your side. And there's a whole primer if you want to go to 8ch.net. That's 8ch.net. Go there, and there's a whole primer. It'll tell you, hey, listen, this is what the area you're about to go into. And yes, you will be offended. Turn back now. It's like Area 51. Do you want to see what's in there or not? And so, and it is protected, and it's protected by free speech. Okay, so I don't know. One time I tried to go into Area 50. I didn't try. I just wanted to see how, where the border was. And believe me, these guys came over the hill in Humvees, and they had all sorts of stuff. They've got sensors all over that place. And that's the way we protect our network, is because it's all of these people saying, hey, you're an NPC idiot that wants to come in and shut us down. You can do it from outside. If you want to come in, you're happy to. More than happy. But be anonymous and say what you want. And just, most people shouldn't even have to think about those rules. The DMCA stuff, okay, some people foul up on that, especially with images. But if you start trading music and movies, we're not there for that. There's plenty of other places you can do that. But if you want to express your idea without being censored, that's where to do it. If you want to blow the whistle on a company and you want to create a board and you want to put in company documents and you don't want anyone to know, that's where you do it. You're telling me that WikiLeaks isn't on 8chan. Come on. So that's where we're getting a lot of this information. And it's, certainly, oh, well, you're using anonymous sources. Well, yeah. But if you look at the Goldwater, all of it sources out. I can't remember the last time that anyone's asked me, hey, this is a little bit iffy. Should we go with it? Pretty much all the writers at the Goldwater know what their level is because they've been using 8chan. So that's how it works. I know I'm plugging 8chan quite a bit, but again, 8chan, you'll find you don't pay for it. It's 100% free. And the other thing, too, is there's no possibility, because we're an anonymous network, how can we possibly sell your identity? So really, this is as free as it gets, baby. So anyway, I'm done with my spiel on that. So folks, with just encouraging people to, if you want to know what 8chan is, go there. And if you have a different opinion on what's happening right now with the caravan, what's going on with the bombs, what you think might happen, I mean, if they're willing to do this with Kavanaugh and all of this, what are they going to be doing? What's coming next? Because most likely somebody has thought of it. And a lot of these things, believe it or not, the liberals are going into HN, and they're easy to spot. And they actually grab a lot of these ideas. For example, did you know that the Russian dossier, the whole idea of the Russian dossier was picked up off of 4chan?
Right.
A long time ago. It was off of, this guy he didn't come up with the idea. The guy that was paid to come up with the idea got it off of 4chan.
The British guy.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, it was illegal for Hillary Clinton to have a foreigner offer her a, something of value to her campaign. That's completely illegal. But anyways, it's not Donald Trump, so it doesn't matter that it's illegal, apparently.
No, forget it. There's not going to be laws don't apply to Clintons. I thought it was interesting that it wasn't. It was a quip that Trump had made. I was going back. I was trying to look for a different segment of one of his speeches, one of his recent rallies, and I just kind of got sidetracked. And I'm going to have to bookmark it. I've got a terrible problem. I think I'm being herfed right now. It's weird. High energy radio frequency. A lot of my electronics are dying right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, I'm living in a cement building. And so really, well, you know the feeling, Phil. Electronics just die around
when
you.
The batteries,
you're worse
yeah,
than I am.
exactly. And some days it's worse than others. Some days everything I touch just stops working, and you've seen that happen. I love that.
Oh yeah,
I love that.
Oh yeah.
When it's just me, it makes me feel like I'm crazy. But occasionally there's somebody. Wow, that shouldn't do that. Okay, well watch this. No, that shouldn't do that either.
No, you know what? And I mean, I believe in it so much that, to me, it's gotten to point of superstition. I told you about this guy in college. Man, everything broke around him. You gave him a pen, it would break. He would manage how to break a pen or a lighter. You give him a lighter, it would break. God forbid you give him your car. Okay, so I've seen that, and then consequentially, you see it around people with electronics, and I've experienced it myself. And so, I go through periods of time where it's like everything will break, all of it. And that's when I know that's why I carry 3 laptops sometimes, is because I know that and they'll all end up breaking, but that period of time is delayed. It's not just one going away. I've got time for the next one to break before I can fix the first one, and the period seems to be over. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. If you're on the same network, if you're going under attack, if you're doing pen testing on yourself and maybe something went awry, maybe. There's a lot of different reasons for it. But I believe it in such that there were days where, of course, running internet service providers, you're in data centers. And so you've got cages and cages and racks and racks and racks of servers. And you see how everything is breaking around somebody, and there's an important client that calls and he needs some work done in a cage, and this is happening around somebody that you're working with, and the call comes in, and even though you're busy, I admit to it, I really do. It's kind of superstitious, but I'll say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to take care of all of your stuff up in the cage today, because I don't want you touching anything up there. But what you don't, it's like, really, just trust me on this, because everything will break. And seriously, the same guy, actually a couple of guys, but one guy in particular, it was like he was having one of those days and I didn't have time, sent him up, and sure enough, everything, cables. He managed to grab the wrong, a defective cable, which, we get these, we pay good money for them. And, it's just bad luck. This guy was Mr. Murphy. I don't know. But, yeah, anyway, we digressed on that one. But Phil, yeah, I totally understand it. And, you know, some of this stuff is, it's legit. It's legit, I think. I mean, because our bodies have, you know, I mean, I think that, I mean,
our brains work on the same sort of electromagnetic frequencies as the cell phone towers. And in the 60s, there were CIA psychiatrists who were learning how to harness that to make monkeys more docile or angry. And once again, I wish I was making this stuff up, you know?
Yeah.
But that's conspiracy theory. Then why is it in the 1976 Senate Church Committee hearings? Why is it on the congressional record? You know?
Yeah. Well, we've just got about 5 minutes left here, and I wanted to give everybody an update as we usually do. Of course, last week, you know, we had the PI that helped Alex Redfoot get out of prison, out of jail, and that's just the release date we've been told is any time, any day. But again, with these things, you never know the exact day. And so we're just desperately hoping that he is going to be out very, very soon. I want to reach out to Paul Kangas, who we had on the show last week. And Paul, if you're listening, I meant to send an email out, but we've raised $1,500 for you over here. That's just a start. And I want to if you check your email on that, we want to get that over to you, get a bank transfer done. And then we will have some more money for you later on. And then, of course, if you'd be kind enough to give us Alex's details once he gets out. I know you're right there. You're probably going to be there when he gets out. Greatly appreciate you putting him in contact with me and all the people here at the Goldwater, and, of course, Dr. True, so that we can make sure he gets everything he needs, because this man has been through an incredible ordeal. He was facing 25 plus years, $2 million cash bond, and this story is just starting, folks. Once I get permission from Alex to start reporting on this, we will. We've got tons of information. We have, in fact, we actually have video. And of course, we'd like to, when Alex is ready, get permission from him to start reporting. Also consult with his attorney to make sure. But I won't start reporting over here at the Goldwater until we do get the green light from him personally. So that's good news all around, folks. Let's keep an eye on everything. By the way, Alex's website is labvirus.com, labvirus.com. And of course, the story behind the story is part of Revolution Radio, and it is listener supported. None of us get paid. So please go to revolution.radio and donate what you can, and just subscribe to the archives. That's the best way of doing it. And you'll hear shows like this and go way, way back. And the interesting part for me is to go back and see how people's predictions came true. So we look forward to having Dr. A. True back on his show here. And, of course, we'll be simulcasting from the Philippines and be available as in any way we can to help out this show and to help out Dr. True, the story behind the story. I want to say goodbye to the folks, Phil.
Oh, yeah. Thanks once again to Dr. Ott and Dom, you guys for having us on again. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
So to just recap, we ran over, and I think it's pretty much the same thing, the bombing and the caravan. This is, what does that tell you? Invasion, bombs. I mean, this is an invasion. This is something we need to be highly skeptical of in every sense. Use your own mind, folks. And when you have a 2 and 2 equals 4, and you've got something that, you know, might have a little fraction that hasn't been included by the mainstream media, those little fractions add up. And those are questions. Those are the questions. That's not what you have. You know, there's a little additional mind power that's going on, people that are actually thinking these things through. And it should be, important. It's more important now than ever to take that little bit that is your thinking, saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm missing something here. I haven't been told everything. And that's what we're here for. They weigh up, folks. They weigh up all over the place, whether you're just have some common sense, or maybe you know somebody that's involved in this that might have taken a photograph, might live down in Florida, somebody that might be in Honduras. And by the way, actually do contact me, Burdock, BURDOCK, at thegoldwater.com. If you know somebody in Honduras, and this is not a joke, who is willing to join a caravan for a period of time as an undercover operative for the Goldwater, that job is available. Phil, we need you too much here in the Philippines. It's too much fun, and you get lost.
I'm not brown enough yet. Even in the Philippines sun, I'm still not quite tan enough to pass off as.
Well, I was thinking the Arab angle. You got that little Arabesque thing going, and that would make it even. That's a good angle. We'd have to get you out in the sun quite a bit more, but it would be good because you would be, welcome there. I certainly wouldn't, even though my Spanish is pretty good. They would not really understand. Anyway, folks. Wonderful weekend. Love you.
Thanks so much. Yeah.